Bleeding Edge isn't my most anticipated title of 2020, but it's certainly a game that I'm interested in enough to check out the beta. While I enjoyed what I played, something felt off. After giving myself time to reflect upon it, I think I have an idea what it was. With a colorful cast of characters akin to Overwatch, it has the gameplay feel of a simpler Anarchy Reigns. The moment-to-moment combat is fine, but something feels like it's missing something. Check it out. Did you hear that? That's the sound of no music during combat. Why? Why does it sound so barren? Maybe there's an argument to be had that the game doesn't have background music because it distracts from the action. Competitive games such as Call of Duty and Overwatch seldom use music during gameplay because players, especially pro players, would want to listen to important audio cues such as footsteps or sniper fire. That's a valid argument. But a counter-argument to that is Bleeding Edge's gameplay consists of close quarters combat, including ranged weapons, meaning that your opponents will always be within range. The game relies on visual cues rather than audio cues, so that argument can be easily dismissed. Besides, can you imagine if there's a soundtrack playing during these matches? Here, let me ask you something. Would you rather play the game and listen to this, or this? I'd rather have the latter, thank you very much. It's games like this that remind me of the importance of music in video games. Most of us have talked in great detail about how fun or immersive video games can be, but the one element that we don't think about too often is the music that accompanies our games. I'm here to talk about a little bit of that in this video. Now, before we get started, let me say that I am not a video game music expert. This is more of an analytical piece from the perspective of someone who just plays games. With that out of the way, let's begin. In my opinion, Marvel vs. Capcom has some of the most iconic themes in fighting game history. The Marvel vs. Capcom series is known for over-the-top tag team combat between mostly memorable characters from different franchises. Each character has their own theme song that matches their personality in some way. Let's take Nova the Human Rocket for example. In Marvel Infinite, his theme leaves a little bit to be desired. It's not bad. I would say it's serviceable at best. In context of the game, however, it feels too similar from other character themes, particularly the rest of the Marvel roster. The character themes from the Marvel roster are so bland and generic, I almost thought Capcom simply took the music files from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and just slapped it onto this game. Wouldn't it be the first time Capcom copy-pasted something? They just feel uninspired. Now, compare Nova's theme from this game to his Ultimate Marvel 3 theme. This sounds like it has a personality. This sounds like he's a galactic superhero who will stop at nothing to save the universe. For fighting games, it's important to have a soundtrack that gets people in the fighting spirit, like Tekken, Guilty Gear, and Smash Brothers. There's a reason why I always bring up Killer Instinct whenever music is involved. No matter the situation, KI manages to make players feel an insurmountable amount of hype while performing long combo strings and breaking out of them. In Marvel's case, the accompanying music captures the over-the-top action found in the series. Mafia 3 is a flawed game. Compared to its predecessor, I was expecting a sequel that was as good, if not better, than what came before it. I made an entire video dedicated to my disappointment of Mafia 3, among other games. However, I'll give credit where credit is due. The developers have captured the style and look of the fictional city of New Bordeaux in the 1960s. All the game's visuals and political injustices such as racism and corruption are representative of the era.
I should have wore something else.
Hey, these squares have a problem with your threads. You can take it up with my old man. He'll tell him to kiss his ass. Nice thing about having fuck you money.
If there's one category that helps this immersion reach its full potential, it's the music of Mafia 3. Unfortunately, I'm unable to play a majority of the music found in Mafia 3 because they are licensed content, and we all know how YouTube feels about copyright law. Well, I digress. But I'm certain you understand what I mean when I say the music is appropriate for the time period. Artists like James Brown, the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, and Creedence Clearwater Revival are what you listen to on the in-game radio stations. Even the original music score feels authentic, like it belongs to the era it represents. If anyone were to tell me that the original score was licensed content that was performed by a band from the 60s, I would be inclined to believe them. It's that well made. Imagine if that wasn't the case, where the soundtrack doesn't match the visuals. Takes you out of the moment, right? Immersion in video games is something I appreciate more as the years go by. Games like Jet Set Radio, Nier Automata, and Cuphead are some other great examples of immersion through music. From traversing through a post-apocalyptic wasteland to battling against enemies set in a 1930s cartoon world, music is one of the defining factors in immersing the player in its world. As much as I dislike Mafia 3, I gotta admit, it's got style. Halo as a franchise holds a lot of meaning to me. I have played the games, I read some of the books, I have the limited edition console and controllers, I even got my own helmet. The campaigns, while not perfect, stuck to me all these years later. I absolutely adored the original Halo trilogy, while Halo Reach went for something different, but memorable in its own right. And Halo 5...
What the hell was that?
Yeah, it was simply disappointing. But if there's something that these games have in common, is their entire music score. Nearly every track oozes with a level of nostalgia that resonates with me. Halo Reach's music stands out from the rest of the series. While Halo 3's theme still hits me in the right spot over a decade later. As much as I dislike Halo 5 Guardians, I can admit that its rendition of the Warthog run is the best version. It takes something familiar in the franchise and makes it its own thing. memorability isn't exclusive to the Halo franchise. Think about other games that many of us have played in the past that had memorable melodies like Banjo-Kazooie, the Final Fantasy series, and the entire Super Mario franchise. It's why I'll always associate an epic adventure with the main theme of Skyrim. It's why I'll remember the Grand Theft Auto Vice City soundtrack as it pays tribute to 80s films and TV shows. It's why I'll always remember Halo as the sci-fi juggernaut it is. I might not be an expert at what goes into music, or how much is too much or too little, but I somewhat understand what it means to be moved by music. Whether for nostalgia or for getting in the groove, music plays a role in how we interpret what we should feel in the moment. For better or worse, most of us would feel a strong attachment to a music track that will help us remember it more. In Bleeding Edge's case, I feel that background music may enhance the overall experience. Does it mean Ninja Theory should add music during gameplay? It's not for me to say. Perhaps there's a creative reason why it's the way it is. In my opinion, I think it would immerse players into the game's world. It could get players into the zone during a close match. But more importantly, it would help to give the game an identity. For years, we've seen games like these that come out only to die and wither away in the next few months. Bleeding Edge has the characters, the world, and the gameplay. Maybe just one simple change like music can make a good experience that much better.